Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Friday night Vorpal board stream. I hope everybody's doing well out there. Today, I have with me two very special guests from Dead Alive Games. I have with me Brendan and Bernie. Brendan, Bernie,
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Hello.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. We are here tonight to play these guys' upcoming game. It's called Omicron Protocol, and it is a intra-apocalyptic arena-based skirmish game, arena combat skirmish game. And what I want to jump into right away with you guys is the idea of a intra-apocalyptic environment. So tell me a little bit about what, for your game, what that means. What does intra-apocalyptic mean versus post or pre-apocalyptic?
Good question.
Indeed.
Yeah, we kind of created that phrase partially because of the setting itself, and then partially because a lot of people will ask that question. So intra just means the apocalypse is happening right now. It actually, in the story, happened about 4 weeks ago, started 4 weeks ago, really got bad 2 weeks ago, and you're kind of 4 weeks in. So you don't really know if there's the apocalypse is happening outside of the city that you're stuck in. So we wanted to add a little bit of hope in there instead of like, oh, this is a post-apocalyptic world. There's no hope at all. So I think people in the city just want to like survive and maybe get out and hopefully see their families and all that again.
That's cool. And I think like stuff kind of still works, right? Like
Yes.
society hasn't totally broken down yet. I think that's
Totally.
kind of an interesting, and yeah, I get it, Bernie. It's sort of like that's a good marketing angle, right? Like,
Yeah.
like you know, if you put that on a poster, people are like, oh yeah, what the hell is intro?
It's the first question like 90% of people ask.
Oh, now you're making me feel bad, right? You're just, I'm just one of the normal people to you, yeah.
You just fell into our trap.
No, that's cool. So in this world, the apocalypse is happening. This is a future society, but kind of like near future, right? Like we're talking about cybernetic implants, and we're going to be playing as some cybernetic characters. And then there are also what are called Sims, which is a abbreviation, CYMS, and it has cybernetic in it, but I cannot remember exactly the full name. So tell me a little bit about the Sims. Tell me about the sort of the apocalypse itself. What's happening?
Well, the Sims are, according to the media sources, of course, are basically have been playing too many virtual reality video games and aren't able to control themselves and differentiate anymore. In reality, that's kind of true, but there's, of course, much more to the story. So the acronym SIMS comes from the actual secret name for these guys that the government assigned, but the media is calling them the cyber mimetic sociopaths. So that's where that comes from. And
Cool.
we won't reveal the real name yet.
All right, perfect.
The real name is in one of our stories. If you want to go on our website, it's mentioned at the very end of one of the stories.
Cool. So how do you guys? You're kind of like a co-designing team of this game.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys kind of like evenly split up the responsibilities as far as like things like lore creation, right? And like you do a lot of writing of sort of stories in the environment, in the mythos or whatever. Is that all a team effort, or are you guys breaking that up, or how does that work?
Pretty
It's
much
all team.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty much all team. The character design we definitely do split up, but we obviously talk to each other and take each other's advice and all that. The lore is pretty much us sitting down and outlining it all out. We do have a writer, Nick Brown, from the UK. He's writing the details of the story for us. We usually give him kind of here's the outline. This is kind of what needs to happen, the major beats. Make it fun and exciting.
All right, good. Yeah, that's the best way to write a story, I feel like.
Yeah. So all the details and the funny jokes, that's all him.
Cool. And then one thing that I was especially... So what folks at home are seeing is a prototype, and what we'll be playing tonight is a prototype. I think it's pretty far along for a prototype as far as those things go. But one of the things that really jumped out at me is, and y'all see them in a little bit, is the miniatures themselves. The game, it's a skirmish game, so you're going to have a lot of stuff moving around on the board, but it has some incredible miniatures. And the ones that I have as part of this prototype are are they pewter? They're actually made out of metal.
They are
but
pewter. Yeah.
tell me a little bit about the process for getting miniatures made, because this, when I see board games get made, this is the part that I find the most intimidating, right? Like, of course, the game design stuff is hard, and I get it. I'm not minimizing that, but if you're a person who's just trying to kind of like kickstart a board game, saying, "Hey, we're gonna have 25 miniatures in the game," or it's even more for you guys because it's 16 of just the Sims, and then all the characters.
12. Yep.
12 unique characters. Yeah.
Do you guys have a background in this, or how did you get to the miniature stuff?
No, we're just fools.
I know. Advice to all other Kickstarter creators: do not make a miniatures game as your first game.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to make a minis game, step back, make a card game, and then think about making a miniatures game.
Right. So did you guys find an artist to do the sculpts for these, or how do you?
Yes.
Man, that's got to be just to me would feel like fumbling around in the woods for a while to try to figure out how to do that.
It certainly was.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. We were super lucky. We have used a website called Upwork.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm sure they've advertised, so you may have heard of them or whatever. But basically, you can just hire contractors from all sorts of various different lines of work. And so we found a few sculptors, and we ended up with this guy, Andrew Martin, who's super awesome. Props to you, Monster Caesar, he goes by on social media. So he does a really great job. And we really liked what he did, and we really picked him over some of the other candidates we had because he had experience making game miniatures.
Okay.
So he's been a huge help, just kind of guiding us with his past experience. And then as far as getting them made, another big thank you to Sean Sutter. He makes the game Relic Blade, which is awesome. But he's really helped us on the production side and like figuring out that kind of stuff. So he hooked us up with a company, Fortress Figures, that actually does metal casting. And they helped kind of fine tune our sculpts as well. So really, really cool.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, there's an insane art form there to make something that is going to look good on the table, right? That is easy to turn into then a plastic mini as well, right? Because eventually you're going to have these made in plastic, not in pewter, I assume.
Indeed.
So yeah, I would be insanely intimidated. So kudos to you guys for just sort of wading into that. That's very impressive.
It was super hard and super intimidating, and we would have been lost without the help that we had for sure. Like, and especially like again, Fortress Figures were really, really like clutch when it came to us saying, okay, here's our sculpt, and they were like, this is good, but you're going to need to cut this into 3 or 4 pieces or whatever. And I think people are going to appreciate it if you can do this in 1 piece or 2 pieces. I mean, and that's back when we were only considering metal miniatures, which is a scene. I mean, miniatures players are willing to assemble models, but we were really starting to make that transition into a more inviting sort of like, we want casual players, we want people who may not want to spend all day assembling a team of minis and 2 weeks painting them. We want people to be able to put these models on the table as fast as possible. So they were really, really crucial to that effort.
That's cool. And that actually is a kind of a perfect reference to something I was going to ask you guys about, was sort of like accessibility of this game as kind of a skirmish game is something that when I started talking with Bernie and then, he sent out a prototype to me, I was thinking to myself like, okay, this is going to be a sit down, open up and find the flamethrower template and the machine gun template. And, I have to get a little metal ruler and like all that sort of stuff.
Totally.
And it's not that at all, and people will see that tonight. Like I play a lot of, I always say this, I say this on every stream, so anybody who's watched this is just going to like roll their eyes. But like we play a lot of Gloomhaven, right? And that sort of mindset prepared us well for like reading the rule book here, right? So area of effect attacks on a hex grid, movement rules,
tactical positioning.
Yeah, positioning is very important, right? So I feel like this is, and I don't mean this as a bad word. I just want to throw that as like, this is a very accessible type of this game. And if that's what you guys were going for, I think that you really kind of hit it out of the park. So kudos.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's a compliment.
That was our number one thing. It started off as a ruler and template
Yeah.
game. There was scattered dice involved too.
Okay.
Oh God! Don't even.
Yeah.
Forget he said that. No
I know.
questions about that, please.
But pretty much, we wanted to make. I mean, miniatures has kind of been intimidating for so many people, and we love the miniatures game. So we're like, hey, can we make something that can get people who normally would never do it to come and try to play? So even in the rules, anytime we go, like, do we need this rule? Do we need the stats? Nope. Streamline it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think that's smart. Like, do you guys have a background playing, like, tabletop war games, or what's your, that is your kind of sweet spot from a gaming perspective?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
We
do you
both
what
like
are you
board
playing?
games
What are you playing right now? What's the hotness in the Dead Alive games?
Omicron Protocol.
Omicron Protocol, of course. Well,
That's all we have
honestly,
time
that is
for.
all we play.
Yeah.
Before this game, we'd played a lot of Guild Ball, which is from Steamforge Games.
Okay.
I played X-Wing for a while,
Mhm.
and Warhammer 40K, and all the different variations of that.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
my favorite game
X-Wing
to
is
see.
nice.
X-Wing, I love when I'm at like a convention.
Mhm.
Seeing people play that game, I'll never get into it myself, and that's fine. I'm comfortable with that. But like watching people play that is like maybe my favorite watching experience, just because the tabletop presence of it is very, very cool.
It's
So,
great.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
As a kid, I played Necromunda.
Necromunda.
But-
Awesome.
But Necromunda V1, which was just like it came in one big box, and it had
All the metal models.
and it had the
Oh, wow.
multi-level, so it was like
Yeah.
a lot of verticality to it.
Yep.
And then I played some 40K as a kid as well. But then I kind of got away from it for a long time, which is why I was like, uh-oh. I was like, this is going to pull me back in. But no, I think this is I think you really did a good job with it. So
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
kudos. All right, so the one thing I also wanted to get into is around Kickstarter generally, right? Because Kickstarter is such an insane beast of its own in the board game space, especially. It's the biggest platform of crowdfunding is board game stuff. And you guys did run a Kickstarter a few months ago, and then canceled that after it started a little bit. I believe that your plan was to kind of make some changes, relaunch later on, and the target is kind of like in the fall. But I wanted to pick your brains a little bit about, sort of as a creator that did this for the first time, what are the things, like, are there things you felt like you just sort of weren't prepped for or missed or something? Or how did that experience go for you guys? Because I was also a failed. We had a failed Kickstarter as well.
You did way better than we did.
But you do know some of the answer to your own question just by experience.
A little bit, yeah.
Because there are just some unknowns. There's things that you don't know. Definitely the big one, I think, gaps in our message about what our game is. So we had attracted a lot of people with like our awesome art or pictures of our models and stuff, and then I think a lot of people came to our Kickstarter page and were like, well, what is it? Still. So yeah, that was a big oversight on our part, just because you don't know what. I mean, we know it so well. It's like,
Correct.
Of course, this,
Yes.
So that's a big thing, and I think it probably affects a lot of Kickstarters.
Yeah, just like not being able to look at once you've been working on something for so long, like not being able to look at it. You're trying to make that page not disgustingly long, and you're trying to figure out the 5 things that are really important to put on it. But for every person you talk to, it's so different, right? So
totally,
especially in a genre like this, where somebody who's coming to see a skirmish game or a miniatures game, right? They might be looking for something totally different than the next person.
Yeah.
They might be looking for like a 40K or like a kill team or whatever, right?
Sure.
Or they might be just a board game player who's like, oh, I like the painted minis that I saw here, right? So yeah, I could definitely see, since you're kind of like straddling some genres, that's a difficult thing to figure out how to market it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like Brennan said, we pretty much launched with no videos. We had preview videos, but we did not have any gameplay, learn to play anything. I think part of it is because we're not video people, as we mentioned
Yeah.
before. And then the other part is that we've been demoing the game live for so long. And then usually when people play it, they're like, oh, I get it. It's this and that. And then we just never thought about like, okay, all these thousands of people who are just
Right.
looking at text.
What if you haven't played it? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big thing that I found too is just like and people say it when you ask people about launching a Kickstarter, and I kind of rolled my eyes at it because I'm an idiot and I didn't take advice. But you really have to have an audience of your own to start with. You need to bring your own crew to sort of get things going. And it's not sort of the days of, oh, I'll just put out this random cute idea and then it'll be a mountain of funding. Like those days are kind of gone. I'm sure they happen from time to time, right? But like the days where the guy put the potato salad recipe on Kickstarter and got $1 million or whatever, like we're not in those days anymore. So
I wish I have a good recipe.
right. So you guys are coming back in the fall. Are there major structural? I know you guys have been tweaking little things on the game, but are there like major structural changes to the Kickstarter offering itself? If somebody was to go to the page today for the first Kickstarter, is it roughly the same the second time around?
Yeah, they're roughly the same. I think we learned a lot from having it live. Just the feedback, either in the forums or in like just out there, people were pretty honest with their feedback. I think ultimately it's message will be a lot more clear. What is this game? Like top 3 things that's unique about it. The other thing that we learned from the previous one is obviously the goal and the price. I mean, part of that is not fully in control. We're not fully in control of it, but we definitely were using the last few months to try to find more affordable manufacturers so that we can get the goal and the price to something that people are willing to pay. For example, another thing is standee versions versus miniatures. Some people are like, oh, this looks like an interesting game, but I can't pay whatever it was, like $79 for it. Do you have a 2D version? Sure. So these are all the feedback we're going to take and put into our new page. Obviously, with recording this video, as well as we've been doing some live streams and all sorts of video recording, there's just going to be gameplay videos of almost every scenario out there. So if you're just curious, like, hey, how did the 2 different scenarios play out, you can now watch those videos. And then we're going to get a couple more previewers, some of the bigger name ones also, to join in the next few months.
Cool. Very cool. And I know that the base game, the core box, comes with the 2 factions that you'd see tonight, which are the Survivalists and the Peacekeepers. And then as part of the Kickstarter were 2 additional factions, which is kind of like a triad gang style faction. And then one, which I'm especially interested in, which is just like cybernetically enhanced animals, which I think is very cool. And we'll see tonight one miniature that takes up 3 squares. I'm actually pointing to him on the screen right now. We kind of have a top-down view. We're going to be playing with a Lance, who's riding a horse right here. He's kind of like a cavalry member. But I have seen a screenshot on your Kickstarter page of a gigantic elephant miniature.
Yes.
Which takes up, I think it takes up, does it take up seven hexes?
It's 7 hexes, yeah, and I've been painting him. So he's actually in my hand right now.
Bring him on.
It's a she.
Bring her on. Sorry. All right, there she is.
So here she is. This is work in progress, of course, and it's a rough 3D print, but definitely you get the idea here. So a little more detail.
Some chips or some sort of robotics there sticking out of her head. All right.
Yep,
cool.
She's got some cybernetics. She has some sort of charged up tusks. So
awesome.
There's a lot going on. Here you can see she's stomping a Sims down.
She's
keeping him under control.
Crushing a poor Sims. That's awesome. I love it.
She's amazing. Yep. And really looking forward to getting her on the table.
Yeah, that's going to be very cool. And Brandon, are you? Yeah. So there's a lot of promotional material that you guys have generated that's with painted minis. Are you the painting master? Who's the one who paint? Those are really nice, man.
Guilty as charged. Thank you. Yeah. It's my favorite thing to do aside from designing this game.
Well, you're in the right life path, I suppose.
Thank you.
No, that's really cool. We'll be playing with them just primed gray. But if you want to see some shots of the painted minis, including the Sims minis, we're going to be playing with the Sims standees, which you can see that I'm zooming in on here. Those are the sort of the third-party bad guys. We'll be playing with the Sims minis standees tonight, but you can see shots of all the Sims and player characters painted on that the Kickstarter page for the first go of Omicron Protocol, or on the Omicron Protocol website, or Facebook page too. So.
And just to clarify real quick, the core game, the base game, is all miniatures. So this is definitely prototype, but we will be making a pure standee version available in the Kickstarter. So so what you see is representative of one offering, but the other offering will be fully 3D.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we're kind of playing a mixed version this evening. So cool.
Yep.
All right, nice. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to launch into a 2-on-2 campaign. So we're going to have two heroes on both sides. Brandon and I are going, or not campaign, skirmish. Brandon and I are going to be on the same team. We're going to play as the peacekeepers. So we're each going to control one of the heroes. And then evil Bernie is going to be on the other side. And he's going to be playing the survivalists. And he's going to control two characters. What we're going to do is we're going to go away for just a minute, make sure all of our stuff is ready to go, and then we'll jump back in and start the game in just a second. So if everyone wants to hold on, we'll be back with you in just a minute.